Hi, I'm Raven. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And welcome back to another episode of
Smoking Out the Closet.
For those of you who are new or just joining us, we are a queer podcast
Pun intended.
that talks about cannabis,
The LGBT community,
and everything in between.
and beyond.
So welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, so there's the box. So Vital Options finally came to the west side of our state. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it should, because right before we moved to the Pittsburgh area, very early in our show's history, we talked about a dispensary that was supposed to be opening up near where you used to work, which is Vital Options Dispensary. Is it Vital Options or Vita Health?
I think their Vita Health is their dispensaries, and then Vital Options is their brand.
So, but they're finally out here, and I snagged one. It's a cartridge. We're doing a cartridge. We're usually flower people.
But we haven't done a lot of cartridges, so I was like, why not? Let's do a cartridge.
So, I got Witch's Brew, which I got it mostly because of the name. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's got 69 nice 0.550 THC, 4.140 THCA, 0.340 THCV, and it's got 1.98 CBG, 0.96 CBN. It's got a lot of cannabinoids in it.
Yeah.
And then terps, it's got highest one is limonene at 2.401, followed by linalool at 1.392, followed by beta-myrcene at 0.894, caryophyllene at 0.677, and then everything else is like 0.2 or lower. So I will say I did like it had an interesting flavor, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I am feeling very high from it. Now I don't feel very sedated, which the CBN and the linalool should have done that. But I will take in consideration we just had coffee.
Yeah, we went to Dunkin'. Not a sponsor.
We're recording first thing in the morning, so we did have our caffeine for the morning.
I say as I'm drinking my Dunkin'.
So I am thinking it is kind of counteracting that effect. I will say I'm feeling very calm, and I don't know about you, but when I use weed, like when I smoke weed and have coffee, my heart races a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any of that right now.
I have a little bit of an elevated heart rate, but I'm also drinking coffee.
Yeah, you're actively drinking.
Actively drinking coffee, so that has my heart rate elevated. But I don't feel like panicky or anything. I personally love having cannabis and coffee together.
Oh, it's a great combination.
That's something I do regularly.
I notice it more with energy drinks, but there are times with some strains I've noticed where I do get a little like heart racy, and I'm like, I need some water to kind of chill a little more.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad. I got this at like my store for $35, which for a half gram is not terrible.
No.
In this state. So they were kind of along the same price as like Double Bear and Strains products.
Yeah.
I am taking into consideration the coffee is kind of holding back the sedating side of it. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 just because price, the flavor. The flavor tasted like you went into the the incense section a little bit
Yeah,
of
it
Spencer's.
was a little flowery, incensey, almost also a little earthy too. It was
Yeah.
yeah, like you walked into the incense section of Spencer's with your mouth open specifically, and it just yeah. Ah, that's I think why I gave it a little less than a 4, just because that flavor, I don't know, it's a little
Weird.
weird, yeah. And I do wanna try this some other time whenever I'm not actively drinking coffee.
So what would you rate it?
A 3.75, very specific.
Yeah.
I also hope you can't hear this vibrating on the
That's
podcast.
that's kind of why I'm like lifting my head up.
I was, like, blocking my microphone.
Sound quality may be a little different between the last episode and this episode. So previously throughout the show, we've been using a um Razer,
Siren X.
yeah, Siren X microphone, and not sponsored, obviously. But I keep seeing these like little clip-on mics at like on TikTokers videos, on some podcasters. There are some people who use these more the wired version. Um, and I keep seeing it. So I thought I would get these, and we tested them the other day, and they sound amazing.
We were even on, like, public transit, out walking on, like, sidewalks and cars going by and stuff.
Like, yeah, we were on a train
Yeah.
and listen, and like you can
The
barely
sound
hear the train.
yeah, the sound quality was great. It was really focused. You can hear us individually better, and I think we definitely have that issue of a shared mic. You can't hear one person versus the other person. I know I have a tendency to not project my voice a lot, so
Yeah,
I need to project farther when there's a microphone farther away from me. But now that it's just clipped on my hoodie, I feel like I can talk like I'm having a normal conversation.
exactly. And I feel like when we're wrestling stuff, it's not going to be able to be picked up as much.
Yeah.
Of course, some background things are going to probably be picked up, but I just want to give you all a fair warning on that. And also, sorry for missing last week. Really didn't make any like notice or anything with it. We were just super burnt out post rent fair.
Yeah, we walked around so much. We were so tired, and it was just like we just needed to take a break. That was our third, and I don't want to say final, but it probably would be our final trip to the Ren Fair this year. But
Oh,
I got to go 3
yeah,
times.
I got to go twice.
And that I went 3 weekends in a row and it was great. 3 Sundays in a row. But yeah, we went to the one out Manheim Lancaster way. So much fun.
Yeah, it was. I loved it.
I want to go for a whole weekend. You were talking about too, like
Hmm.
next time because there's just so much out there.
It's very queer.
Oh yeah.
It's very queer. I loved it.
I want to try to go to the one in Maryland next year too.
That'd be fun.
I'm not against it. That's like not even that's like what, hour?
I don't know. I
Hour
have
and a
to,
half? I don't know. We'll have to maps it, but
and hopefully soon. Speaking of Maryland, hopefully soon you and me could take a trip out towards Cumberland, Maryland, to review some reckweed out there.
heck yeah.
Also, another bonus for these new microphones. We could take them on our road trips. We could do our car pod specials that we're going to do on the Patreon.
Yeah, it
Uh,
makes everything a lot easier.
it does, because then we don't have to worry about hauling a microphone. We could just haul these little guys
Microphone and my Surface to be able to plug it in and record it,
or our phone.
and our phone, and to try to make sure we have enough juice before we leave. This
Hmm.
we can have we can have our phones, we can have the mics, and they plug straight into our phones, and then I can have like my little battery backup thing with us,
Exactly.
and that's all we need. Oh, and a USB-C cord.
Yeah.
There we go. These guys also came with those little headsets so you can like
Yeah.
monitor your mic while you're recording, which I personally don't like. I don't like hearing myself while I'm recording. I would rather not hear anything while I'm recording.
Yeah.
I don't even like hearing myself speaking while I'm recording sometimes,
Mm.
but I like to have like the over the ear headphones.
No, do you want to? Now that the update stuff is out of the way, do you want to get into our topics?
Yeah.
So some of these are a little old, but I did want to bring up for Spooktober. Um, so this is from buy.org, which I found kind of nice. That there's a lot of queer websites that are just basically a sexuality or gender identity.com, .org, .net. And I'm like, this is great. I love this. How the LGBT community transformed Halloween. This is a year old almost, but it's a year old article, but it's really cool. Halloween is a time to lean into that side of yourself you don't dare explore the rest of the year. The celebration is a big event for the LGBT community, a community where it has often been a challenge to be our unique selves, and one that is familiar with wearing masks. But Halloween didn't start off as a fun holiday we know today. Sorry. In fact, it has a creepier side that goes back centuries and is not associated with the LGBT community. Now, the article goes on about like how Halloween is celebrated. It's based off the Celtic festival of Samhain, um, and then how jack o' lanterns became a thing. Um, but there's a section called "A Time to Experiment." It was not long before minority communities embraced the festivities, perhaps out of the need for self expression, or maybe it allows a certain amount of anonymity. In 1912, anyone who wore more than three articles of clothing worn by the other sex could be arrested, but this did not stop those celebrating Halloween. In fact, it was so popular to experiment with gender roles that, according to the Pittsburgh Press, the police were so inundated with reports of cross-dressing that they gave up arresting people.
Wow.
So, and it's true though, because like the first time I experimented with um dressing up more feminine was at a Halloween party. This was also years ago when I learned that crossplay was a thing, like cross dressing cosplay.
Mhm.
So I dressed up. Um, this was also a bit before I care. I remember this was like early college before I even had a clue my gender stuff. Um, but I can't remember who I dressed up as now. But I dressed up as a more feminine character, um, and had a fun time. So like it definitely can help with like helping with like gender stuff and everything. It's like the Starbucks going to get your name, like
Yeah.
experimenting with new names. It's kind of that.
I know I always, like, dressed as more masculine characters for, like, Halloween, whenever I would cosplay. I did my first cosplay was feminine because I was really in the closet, or really in denial, I guess, the river of denial. I was drowning in it. Um, and I was you could see in the pictures of, like, me at the convention I was at, I was really uncomfortable and felt weird, but then when I was dressing as a more masculine character, like, especially when I was at the Ren Fair, I'm just that's just
Yeah, you
it's where
dressed up like the
I
doctor.
like the doctor, oh my gosh, and I got real into it. Um, but even, like, doing a more feminine twist on a masculine character, still having that masculinity in there when I was cosplaying, just I don't know, it felt more comfortable,
Hmm.
but I didn't have the words then to put onto what I was feeling.
Yeah, and it can be a very big gateway to kind of exploring yourself. Um, Going further, there's a section about minority influence. How one historical event that helped change the way we celebrate Halloween was the Great Migration, a time where African Americans moved from the South to mostly like city areas to escape segregation and racism in the North. Um, in New York, the Harlem Renaissance reconnected African Americans who were LGBT. Um, and one of the first known drag queens of the time, William Dorsey Swan, who was born into slavery, led the way in showcasing drag and drag balls at the historic venue. Um, and that's a big thing because George Chauncey says that queer gatherings in Harlem embraced the solidarity of the LGBT world and symbolized the continuing central
Centrality.
thank you
You're welcome.
of gender inversion to the gay culture. Um, the trend of elaborate celebrations on Halloween took off in the 1920s because of the movements like the Harlem Renaissance. It opened the door for people to be empowered to explore their own drag. And then it's also true. There's a lot of like drag events around Halloween because like you
Mhm.
can explore with the creepy and the scary, but also kind of the fun and performance. Because it is an excuse. Now this why am I bringing this up for Spooktober? Is because the next section here we went to a horror themed burlesque show thrown on by is that Hot Metal
That was
How
Hot Metal
that was Hot
Hardware.
Metal Hardware?
Yeah.
Um, and it was really fun, really cool, but
Oh, no, wait, was that the Bettys?
it was either Hot Metal Hardware or
Or the
Smoke and
Smokin'
Betty's. Those
Betties?
are the 2 we usually go to, and I can't remember
Yes.
now. Um,
A lot of the same wonderful folks, similar wonderful folks.
yeah, so shout out to both.
Oh, it is
Um,
the Bettys because, oh, shoot, what's his name? Amoxie is a Betty.
yes, yes,
So it was the
it
Bettys
was
we
the
went to
Betty
go
show,
see.
okay. Um the host was saying that Halloween is gay Christmas. And so I was like, we are doing a Spooktober theme for, for the whole month. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, let me find some like queer stuff. And this article says gay
It's
Christmas.
gay Christmas. Now,
Um,
I have just recently been exposed to this. I think this year is the first time I've heard of this.
same. The celebrations later were known as Gay Christmas, which stems from an early reference to Halloween being called Bitches Christmas. According to Mark Stein, a professor of history at San Francisco State University and the author of City of Sisterly and Brotherly Loves, published 2000, Philadelphia LGBT community was known to celebrate Bitches Christmas by dressing up in drag and partying between the 50s and the 60s.
That's cool.
That is cool. Also, shout out to our friends on the other side of the state.
Hi, Philly.
Pittsburgh's better though, so we were actually talking about this, not to get too sidetracked. Um, that the only thing Philly has better than Pittsburgh, and probably some of our Philly listeners are probably going to hate us for this. Um, they have better cheesesteaks because the Philly cheesesteak was invented there, so obviously they're going to have better ones.
We have better cheeseburgers, though.
Yeah,
Smashburger's pretty good, but I don't know. Pittsburgher's where
the
it's
Pitts
at.
burgers are awesome. Um, they have the Mazzoni Center though, which is the
Yeah.
big trans health center on the East Coast. It is the big one.
Hmm.
So I gotta give Philly that props and everything with that. And they have Wawa.
Yeah, I love
But
Wawa.
we have Gecko. Gecko over here is
Gecko's
really good.
good.
Gecko is a PA pretty much. I mean, it's starting to spread into Ohio and West Virginia a little bit.
But it started as a Western PA because it's connected with Giant Eagle, and Giant Eagle's own Gecko, and
It's a Pittsburgh started
yeah.
company. Um, where Wawa, I don't know where it started in, but it's up and down the East Coast of the South.
Here, where
Yeah.
did Wawa start?
Because you have Sheets, and Sheets is a PA
She
one, but
started in Altoona.
that's Central PA. But Sheets is
Folsom, Pennsylvania is where Wawa started.
fucking seriously.
Yeah. I don't even know where the hell is that? Where I've
That
never
that
heard of that
feels like
before.
that feels like East Side.
Oh, let me see here. It is boop a doop boop boop. Yep, it's out by Philly.
Oh wow,
It's
okay.
on our
So
side of Philly. But
Wawa. So you're telling me the three big gas stations started on three of the big gas stations in the state all started in PA.
because see, here's Philly, and there's Folsom.
Well, I'll be damned.
And that explains why they're more concentrated over there, is because
Yeah.
that's where they started at. And same thing with like Sheets. Those are usually only central PA for a little bit, and then they migrated everywhere. And I think they now have over like 600 stores or something.
Yeah, they're in Michigan now, which
What?
is weird.
That's interesting. Nah, that's I don't know how to feel about that. That is
I,
very weird.
I want to do an episode where we go to like get CBD products at gas stations and review them.
Yes, I've been looking at those CBD gummies, and I'm trying to find hemp cigarettes. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, it's definitely interesting, and will be down to that. Might be a Patreon episode where we go and explore that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, Subscribe to our Patreon. We don't have any uh listeners or followers there yet, but we do have a Patreon, and we are working to get stuff for that. Shameless plug.
You're allowed to plug it. It's our podcast.
And so the rest of the article talks about like how like drag and everything empowered LGBT further with like queer drag performances, and then Halloween as it is today. But like it's a really good article. Go read this article. I don't think I can really add much
This
because it's
all,
kind of repeating what we already said.
if you haven't caught up or listened to any of our older episodes, this also links back into LGBTQ people and their influence in horror movies, which I talked about last year on the podcast,
Yes.
because that's something I'm really passionate about. I love horror movies and like analyzing them. Um, our partner Mia and I actually watched Saw last night. We were reading the IMDb for like all the weird facts about it, like, and you could tell like it had that early aught cinematography and
Mhm.
like it kind of the camera work kind of felt Rob Zombie-ish. It was really.
Hmm.
I haven't watched Saw in a really long time, but yeah, queerness in the horror movies.
Um, do you want to talk about the next article, the one you sent me?
Yeah. So it was for this guy.
Yeah.
So, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Maybe that's that little wall finally catching up with me.
Drink more of your coffee.
I should drink more of my coffee. All right, give me 1 second here. So I found this article from Marijuana Moment from the Pennsylvania House approving. God, why is there so many pop-ups? Marijuana Moment, I love you, but you have so many pop-ups on your website. Um, Pennsylvania House approves 280E tax cut for marijuana business over GOP objections. The Pennsylvania House has approved a large scale tax reform bill that contains language to provide state level relief to medical marijuana businesses as they continue to struggle under federal financial barriers. The reform has drawn the ear of Republican members who normally campaign tax cuts as a Democratic giveaway to the cannabis industry. Now, we have talked briefly on the show before about how cannabis, even though they're legal medical cannabis companies at the state level, they cannot file for tax breaks for anything they buy for their business, any expenses they have to take out. Their
Hmm.
budgets are, they have to account for all of that
They get taxed, but they can't get tax returns or anything.
because it's still illegal on the federal level.
Hmm. Just a refresher, I got 280E's definition here. Uh, it forbids businesses to deduct otherwise ordinary business expenses from gross income with associated of quote unquote trafficking of Schedule 1 and 2 substances. So I
Now,
got
I'm so sorry.
you're
My
good.
brain just kind of I was like spacing. I'm trying to figure out what I was going to say. With the Safer Banking Act, would that, because that would allow for them to
Yes.
that also allow them to do like
Hmm.
tax cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it I think it does, but it also includes like benefits of like banks and the FDIC
Being like
being
backing the
allowed.
banks and being allowed
Yeah.
to bank with the cannabis
That
industry.
that's more of that, but I think in one of the versions, like I can't remember if it's a safe or safer bill, um, did have tax cuts allowed.
But the safer is the one that passed.
Safer is the current one that passed the committee and has to go to the House committee to be thrown onto the agenda.
Yeah, so it is moving right along. The marijuana provisions would allow state licensed medical cannabis businesses to take state tax deductions and parcel workarounds for the IRS code known as 280E that prohibits such deductions at the federal level. Um, the House approved the tax bill in a party live vote of 102 to 101 on Tuesday. This article was written. When was this article written? A week ago, October 6th. It's a little dated at this point, but still important to talk about. And then it'll send it to the GOP controlled Senate. The language says the medical marijuana businesses may take an additional deduction, quote, in the amount of the ordinary and necessary expenses paid on incurring during the taxable year, unquote, that are also, quote, ordinarily deductible for federal income tax purposes, end
Hmm.
quote. So any business expenses and things.
No,
Basically treating them like a business so they can take up business expenses.
true. The thing though with this is while they are basically approving it at the state level, they still can't do federal tax returns.
Yeah.
So it is only helping them state-wise, which is still a nice benefit, I will say.
Yes.
Now, most in Pennsylvania, most of this is going to be helping the MSOs, like the big corporations or anything. But if this does pass, it is my hope. It's a big hope that this will help, maybe more smaller businesses along with that bill that was introduced to, help licensing and everything.
Yeah.
Um, Smaller groups actually be like, I want to get into the cannabis industry. Let me try. And, and they can get their money back a little bit instead of having to be like this big restaurateur that owns like 20 restaurants in the state.
Yeah. Mm. Pennsylvania lawmakers also approved a similar language as an amendment to a tax bill in a House committee last year, but the legislation was ultimately laid on the table. They said the new provision will, quote, make us consistent with other states that have medical marijuana. House Finance Committee Chairman Steve Samuelson said on the floor ahead of the vote. Pretty much just go on to talk about other tax bills that are going on. Remains to be seen whether the Republican Senate will move to eliminate the marijuana tax relief bill, but the oppositional messaging in the House GOP side signals that it could prove to be a contentious partisan issue, even though Republicans tend to support tax cuts in general. Yeah, because it's cannabis.
Yeah, well, I mean, Republicans do try to limit tax spending, like the government taxing more and more people. But here's the thing,
Yeah,
right? They're gonna cut certain things. It'd be and cannabis would be a very beneficial thing to actually bring more in. I
yeah,
think, kind of like how we have tax on cigarettes,
yeah.
because a lot of stuff is generated from those taxes.
Well, the reason it's the whole cigarette thing is completely like that. The states are funded by big tobacco, and they get money from big tobacco, and then that's why they have to put the taxes and everything on the tobacco products because they're trying to pay back that funding they got from the
Hmm.
tobacco companies. That's also what a lot of people don't know about, and that's why cigarettes are really fucking expensive.
True, but also, I mean, you can also be like, yeah, we gotta pay them back, but also it kind of curbs people buying
It does
cigarettes
also
too.
curb people buying cigarettes. Yes.
So honestly, I don't blame them for taxing. Whatever the reason is, I think the tax on cigarettes is a good thing
Yeah.
nowadays.
Though that's also a reason why I stopped smoking is because I was at a pack a day, and when I quit, my cigarettes were $7 a pack.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's when I stopped. Is like when they hit 8, I was like, nope, I'm done. Now they're like what 10?
Yeah, damn near. And now I'm not saying like we should tax it crazily for cannabis and everything, but I feel like cannabis should kind of help generate some form of tax for the state and everything. I'd be down with that, long as we're not doing like California style taxes on our
But the thing
cannabis.
about it is they would have to be recreational though to impart tax on it because the state of Pennsylvania does not put tax on
No.
medication.
True, no, true, and that's why it's very beneficial for people if once we go
Oh,
recreational, keep
absolutely.
the fucking medical
Yeah,
cards.
yes, because I've tried to tell everybody this and I will say it again, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. You are going to save so much more money if you just go ahead and pay that state fee and your doctor's fee up front because if you
Hmm.
calculate the amount of tax, about 30%, maybe max of what you're going to be paying on recreational cannabis,
That's if we go California
that's if
style.
we go California style, that's like, worst case scenario.
Best case scenario, we do New Jersey's method.
Yeah, but that's the max of what you're going to be paying. You're going to have to pay that every single time you purchase stuff. And if you
Hmm.
calculate that out, you're going to be paying way more in taxes than you're going to be paying for your state fee and your doctor's fee. So just keep your med card.
Is there anything you want to add before we go to the break?
Nope, I'm gonna step down from my soapbox. I want people to save money and do what's best for them. Um, but yeah, and avoid the taxes on your medication. Only pay for what you need to.
Hmm.
Because it's also a thing of like I was thinking about that earlier. Because people are like, you can buy COVID tests. I'm like, but if I go to the urgent care, my insurance will cover it.
Hell, fucking government's giving them away for free again, so like,
There
why
you
pay
go.
for it?
Yeah. Don't pay for what you don't have to.
Alrighty, we'll be back after a quick break. Pretty in pink and purely wood pulp derived, Blazy Susan pink rolling papers and cones will add a pop of color to your next smoke sesh. Their classic pink papers are naturally dyed, vegan, GMO free, and food safe. They contain no amounts of heavy metals or pesticides unlike other paper producers. Care about what goes in your lungs with Blazy Susan papers and cones. Use promo code BGSOTC20 at checkout to get 20% off with your friends at Smoking Out the Closet. Plus, get free shipping on orders over $50 in the United States. And we are back. So continuing with some of the gayer side of our podcast, um, I found this article by complete accident. And it's kind of so out left field, but when I read it, it was very nice. So I do want to talk about it. So this is from the New York Road Runners, which I'm guessing is a group that are like people who either put on like 4Ks for people to do, or are actually a group that does 4Ks. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I didn't look too far into it, so I do apologize. But this was written on the 2nd of this month, making New York City's LGBT historic sites visible. And that's what caught my eye. New York City is home to hundreds of sites connected to the LGBT history. The New York City LGBT Historic Sites Project is a cultural heritage initiative that documents and represents the often untold stories of these sites.
Hmm.
In June, as part of our celebration of Pride Month, NYRR staff members went on a walk tour of important LGBT historic sites in Manhattan's West Village with NYC LGBT Historic Sites Project guide Amanda Davis. Check out the highlights as we celebrate LGBT History Month, which is October, which is a part of the reason why I did this.
Yeah.
Um, For more information about the NYC LGBT Historic Sites Project, including tours of all over the NYC metro area, visit their website, which is in the article.
Which we
Um,
should put in the. Sorry. I'm getting over a cold. I apologize. Which we should put in the show notes.
yes, all the articles will be in the show notes. I'm trying to get better at that. Um, so you have the New York City AIDS Memorial St. Vincent's Triangle, which was dedicated in 2016 as a way to honor more than 100,000 New Yorkers who had died of AIDS since the early 1980s, and also recognizes the contribution of the caregivers and activists, many whom were affiliated with the nearby former St. Vincent's Hospital. Um, Apparently, the hospital was the ground zero of the AIDS epidemic in NYC and housed the largest AIDS ward on the East Coast. The Washington Square United Methodist Church and Parish House on uh, West 4th Street was known for its progressive stance and accepting of the LGBT community. The congregation was led by a pioneering, openly gay Reverend Paul M. Abels from 1973 to 1984, and provided a meeting space for LGBT groups, including Salsa Soul Sisters, the oldest Black lesbian organization in the U.S.
Oh,
from
that's cool.
76 to 87.
That's cool.
And I would love to go on a tour like this.
That would be awesome.
I'm only going to do a couple of these, but definitely go check out this article because there's some that are like really big.
Obviously, Stonewall's
Yes,
on there.
Stonewall. The one I actually want to do here, Cafe Chino on Coronella Street. which is one I want to go to, was widely recognized as the birthplace of off Broadway theater. Cafe Chino was located on the ground floor of this building for 58 to 68. It was significant in the development of gay theater at the time when it was illegal to depict homosexuality on stage. Um,
The Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop's on here. That's cool.
yeah, that was actually the next one I was about to bring up.
I'm sorry. I
It's
thought I got
okay.
excited.
Um, the first gay and lesbian bookstore on the East Coast, this bookshop moved in 1973 from its original home on Mercer Street. This one's talking about the one on Christopher Street. um, to its more prominent location near the center of NYC's gay life, also serving as a community center and has remained here for 35 years. And that's one thing I did miss when I first went to New York City Pride. Um, and I want to go there at some point. Definitely not now because it's fucking cold as shit.
Yeah.
And I've heard from a lot of people New York City sucks in the cold.
Yeah. They get a lot more snow up there too in New York.
Also, because they're closer to the water
Yep.
and they get more wind.
Yep. It's real fucking cold up there.
Yeah, no.
I went up there for spring break once there was full snow.
For spring bake.
Spring bake. I did get baked that spring break, but I went up there for spring break and there was full snow.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to visit Thorpe, like my brother,
Mm-hmm.
and like actually have uh some weed in it, like smoke weed with him and everything. Which, while I'm on the subject, the last episode, he said we forgot a movie that would have been great to watch, Baked Gremlins,
Oh my god, yes.
which is fair, but then he was like, but I guess that's technically a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's still a good one to watch, though. Hi.
Yes.
So, shout out Thorpe. Stonewall Inn, the historic site of the kind of ignition we talked about in depth about Stonewall Inn many a times on this podcast. I will say, as someone who's gone there, be prepared to drop quite a bit of money if you're going to get drinks there. It is expensive, like expensive, but it was worth it. I mean, $13 for a
Good
cocktail.
grief, that's about as expensive as it is at the Stanley Hotel if you want to get a drink at that bar.
Uh huh.
Because it's not just about the drink.
It's funding the historical site and everything.
Yeah.
Which
Good, give them money.
yeah, because I think that was actually officially recognized as a historical location during well, because like here it says it's the first LGBT site to be recognized on the National Registry of Historical Places in 1999, and it was named a National Historical Landmark in 2000. But I feel like that's the end of the list. Um, I feel like Obama had made something like a national landmark and signed something for that during his administration. I thought it was Stonewall.
I thought it was too. I can't remember.
History nerds, let us know in the comments like what it is, what it
Yeah.
was.
Soren, I don't know if you listen to the podcast. You'd know. You'd be the perfect person to ask.
I think yours is the next article.
Yeah, so I found this article and I'm like, okay, this was interesting. Another marijuana moment article written on October 5th. Feds threaten to make it harder for medical marijuana patients to get state gun permits in Arkansas. Arkansas is recently. I can't. Okay, first, can I get this out of the way? Every time I see it, I want to say Arkansas.
That's fair because it is spelled like Kansas with R in front of it. But I did actually learn the reason why it's called Arkansas and not Arkansas.
Why is that?
It's based off a Native American word.
Okay.
Or a combination of Native American words. I'm not 100%. It's a Native American term.
Okay. Arkansas. Arkansas has recently enacted law permitting medical cannabis patients to obtain concealed carry gun licenses, quote, creates an unacceptable risk, quote, unquote, and could jeopardize the state's federally approved alternative firearm licensing policy, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or ATF, says. The Arkansas law took effect in August, clarifying that a person's status as qualified patient in the state cannot be used in, quote, determining whether an applicant is eligible to be issued a license to carry a concealed handgun, end quote. um,
Okay, this is where it gets fucking stupid, and it's thanks to fucking Nixon and Reagan here. So again, as we said in the podcast, fuck you Nixon, fuck you Reagan. Um, so basically, because it's Schedule One, you can't have concealed carry weapons. The problem here is you have some people who work for for the state government that are medical patients. You have veterans that are working who have PTSD that use cannabis to help it. Now, I'm not saying, but here's where I kind of get like kind of weird as a vet and as a long line of veterans. Um, I feel weird about vets having guns sometimes because I'm like, yes, I know they don't know how to handle it. I know they didn't know how to maintain it, and I know they've had the training to properly store it. But on the flip side, some of us shouldn't have it, especially with how bad the PTSD is for some people.
yeah,
And that's probably not a good thing to have. So, while I do think that, like, for the physical side of veterans, where like they're dealing with injuries and everything, and cannabis helps alleviate that, sure. Some of us with PTSD, probably not.
yeah.
My case in like myself included with that.
The policy change has apparently attracted the critical attention of federal officials. At the Justice Department, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette first reported a letter sent by Marina Mitchum, chief of ATF's Firearms and Explosives Industry Division, to the operations director for the Division of Arkansas Crime Information this week said are, quote, public safety concerns with the law. Mitchum advised the state officials that Arkansas had been previously notified of the condition of the alternate gun licensing scheme, which allows gun buyers to receive approval by the state without going through federal background checks, as the firearms cannot be purchased by a, quote, controlled substance user. In the eyes of the federal government, that includes medical cannabis patients.
Okay, but here's my thing. If you have ADHD and you're taking like the
You're taking Adderall.
and then freaking that's not like what schedule 4, 3 for some of them.
Yeah. Depends on what it's made with, which formula it is.
You can't have a firearm. Now here's also my another point thing. Okay, so I use cannabis. I have a firearm. Do you know what the likelihood of me using that weapon either while I'm high or hurting someone with it accidentally? First off, if you're fucking blazed out of your fucking gourd, how the fuck are you gonna load the magazine? I'm sorry, that takes focus to properly put it in. Because more often than not, I can imagine someone either loading their bullets in backwards,
Hmm.
and which breaks the gun, putting the magazine in wrong, or fucking filling it with Rice Krispies. Like you're not gonna actually. Okay, and here we'll do it even further. Say you have it actually stored in a proper saved lock box, right? And if you don't have the thumbprint scanners and you have to put in numbers, do you have any idea how many times I've been so high I couldn't put my fucking password and my phone in right? And I'm glad I have the fingerprint scanner because I'm like,
I do the same thing with
what's my numbers?
the safe at work. I know what that number by heart, but I still can't put it in right. I still got to try 2 or 3 different times. Also, if you have like one of those, if you have a trigger lock on your gun, those are kind of difficult to get
Mm-hmm.
apart too. So that's just a lot of work when you're stoned. And you know how many times I think about guns while I'm high? Zero. The
Zero.
number is zero.
Now here's the thing: when you're high, you are less prone to getting angry, and sometimes a decent portion of the reason why people get shot outside of accidents is someone's pissed off and has a gun. So you're telling me that that fucking Jimbo can go down to the bar with a concealed carry, drunk off his gourd, and shoot someone, which has happened in this state more than like 100 times. So that's perfectly legal. But I can't inhale a plant that makes me chillax and eat junk food on the couch while watching Scooby Doo. I don't know why I said Scooby Doo was the first cartoon that came to
I
mind,
don't know.
but
Cause Shaggy dresses like a blunt.
yeah, in the second live action movie, yes, he did. Um, but like I don't get that. This is where the whole like bullshit with alcohol versus weed kind of grinds my gears.
It's that double standard, and fuck. the stupid the war on drugs. I hope you can hear the air quotes.
Mhm.
Uh,
And it's just so dumb, and that's the thing, is, like, it's a public safety concern. Where is the concern?
Not where it should be.
Because if you and I'm not saying fucking do alcohol prohibition. No. We we've been down that road, it's dumb, we don't need to do it.
No.
But my thing is, if your public safety concern is based off of bullshit debunked reefer madness, you should not be in control of how shit works. That's my 2 cents. Snaps all around. Is there anything more you want to add from this article?
Let's see here. They're basically questioning Arkansas because if they don't put through the background checks, how do they know that they're not medical users? Uh, they basically are just like cracking down on Arkansas because they could get in a lot of trouble for this because they are supposed to go through like federal background checks. Like every state's supposed to go through the federal
Mhm.
background check and mark all the boxes and cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Or they're supposed to do all the paperwork, and Arkansas was basically not.
No, that's fair. But I also like this quote here from Representative Aaron Pingleton, who sponsored the bill, saying that enacted the medical cannabis gun bill. Told the Democrat Gazette that it sounds like the ATF is going looking for a problem that is not there, adding that he consulted with multiple lawyers to ensure that the legislation was drafted to make sure it would work within all legal framework from the federal government. So yeah, it is literally the fucking
you
federal
got
government
you
just
even got one of your people saying, yeah, they're just looking for problems.
that aren't there.
Yeah, that aren't there. They're making things up. A mountain out of a molehill.
Mountain out of a molehill, more like a mountain out of a dust fleck.
Out of an ant hill.
No, I'm still saying a smidgen of dust. They're trying to make a smidgen of dust a mountain. Because that's to me, that's what reefer madness is.
Yeah.
It is one little
Little wisp
itty
of
bitty problem.
yeah. It's like a dandelion seed. Just one. What?
Now I'm just imagining Horton Hears a Who. This one's a little more recent of an article because we're still trying to catch up on like stuff we missed last week. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of why some of it was a little out of date. But they were important. We needed to talk about them.
Yes.
Feds clarify that doctor recommended medical marijuana is no excuse for a positive THC test under new workplace guidelines.
Which I read that and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that is so fucking stupid. Because, okay, before I actually go into the article, let me bring up this point here. You have type 1 diabetes. You pop positive as THC. Jesse's had, a friend of mine's had that issue as far as I've known him.
Yeah.
Apparently, we worked in a factory together. If you take certain medications, you pop positive for certain drugs. I think one, like Adderall, you pop positive for meth sometimes, depending on what it's made out of. And I think there's a certain medication, I think you pop positive for heroin. Because I think they're a big component of it is very similar to how poppy seeds kind of
Yeah.
trick drug tests into popping positive for heroin. I'm not saying it's made with poppy seeds, but it's kind of along that same vein.
Yeah.
So those are perfectly fine. You have a medical excuse, you have a medical medication.
Why is cannabis any different? It's medical cannabis. Literally, how. Also, my question is, do you even know how cannabis fucking works?
No.
Because this just proves the incompetency of the people writing these stupid ass fucking laws, and they're just like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know how this works, but we're just gonna make it so it doesn't.
So.
Because cannabis, newsflash, cannabis has THC in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knew that. But...
All right, so now going into the article, we just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
Before we read anything of the article, because we knew this was probably going to be brought up. or not brought up. And so we want to bring that up because that is fucking bullshit. A top health agency has formally revised federal workplace drug testing guidelines to clarify that using medical marijuana under a doctor's recommendation in a legal state is not a valid excuse for a positive THC test. In a pair of notices set to be published in the Federal Registry on Thursday, this was published 5 days ago on the 11th, so it's probably already passed. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, announced that it had amended the guidance of salvia and urine tests. Or sorry, I said saliva. I have a slight dyslexia issue sometimes when I'm high. It's fine. That saliva and urine testing to include the cannabis policy clarification, despite receiving comments opposing the proposal after they were first announced last year. The agency did make one change to its initial plan, however. The updated language now notes that passive exposure or unintentional ingestion of any illegal drug, and not just cannabis, does not excuse a positive is not an excuse for a positive test for the purposes of federal employment. While it is already the case that participating in a state medical program does not shield federal workers from being fired over marijuana use, the newly adopted language further clarifies the federal government's ongoing prohibition stance. In the new notices, I want to say SAMHSA, but SAMHA,
Samha?
uh, HSA. That's the HSA part is what gets me.
I don't know.
Acknowledged that it received a number of comments urging reconsideration of its marijuana testing policy, with many taking opportunity to call for federal cannabis legalization. But it said the current laws justify the revised guidance. It doesn't make it right
No.
just because it's a law. How fucking PA this is going on, and I've been following a TikToker with it. You have federal religious freedom, but in PA, if you use any form of witchcraft or services like tarot or anything, you breaking a fortune teller law, which fortune telling for profit is illegal in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's been on the books since 1884.
And they still enforce it, and it's
And
stupid.
a cop was enforcing it in the Philly area.
That's just like you can't sleep on top of your refrigerator in your front yard. That's a law. That's a law in Pennsylvania. But who's actually going to arrest somebody for doing that? It's dumb, and you would think that the wording of this would be the same stupid fucking thing.
But yeah, but like here's my thing though too. Is like if someone is Wiccan and Wiccan is recognized by the federal government, you can actually have that on your dog tags as Wiccan or pagan while in the military, and you have freedom of religion. You cannot arrest someone for performing tarot card services as part of their service.
Yeah, as part of the if it's a part of their religious practice, you cannot legally arrest them for doing that.
But PA says that is illegal, and that sort of thing is it does not make it illegal. Yes, it is how the law is written, but is it right? No.
No.
And that's the thing where this is like, oh, it's on the law. Yeah, it's also illegal to bring a haddock outside of like a fish outside of the Parliament building in England. Don't know why. Does it make it right? No. But it's illegal. I watched a series on like a guy breaking some of the dumbest laws in England.
There's one state where you're not allowed to buy sex toys. I can't remember which state it is.
Oh God, it probably.
But you're not allowed to buy sex toys. It's illegal to purchase them and possess them in that state.
That's
and you can get arrested
so
for it.
Fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, sodomy is still illegal in some states too. Which I'm like, although an increased number of states have authorized marijuana for medical purposes, marijuana remains a Schedule 1 controlled substance, which is fucking stupid.
It's fucking stupid.
And cannot be prescribed under federal law, it says in both notices, for purposes of federal drug-free workplace programs. Federal law pertaining to marijuana control supersedes the state's marijuana laws, and therefore a physician's recommendation for marijuana use is not a legitimate medical explanation for positive marijuana testing.
Why not?
Because it's Schedule 1, and Schedule 1 says there's no medical benefit to it. Okay, but some of the drugs you have for Schedule 3 don't make, like, why, like, they don't make sense of why they're on fucking for medical benefits. You have cocaine. Let's say it is like a medical benefit. Okay, cool. You eat some drugs, you just can't cocaine in it. Fucking opioids, like Vicodin, are way more addicting than fucking THC is.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. If someone was prescribed Vicodin, I don't see them breaking in, like, and they get addicted to it. I've seen more and heard of more people breaking in for that and doing harder drugs because of that than I have for anybody using cannabis.
Mhm.
I don't see people that smoke weed just being like all scratchy and everything, be like itching for that next hit, where they're more just kind of like, I'm bored. I kind of want to smoke weed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a good way to pass time. If you're hungry, have trouble eating, sure, there's loads of medical benefits that have been fucking recorded. But no, it's because there's one. But that's my best, like, I,
Insert obscene hand gesture here.
yeah. That was like, it's more of like, I know better than you. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ugh. Fuck the system. Fuck the man. Fuck them. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't do videos because, like, we at one point you were reading your article. I was just doing like air flip off signs, like going back and
Oh
forth.
yeah, I fidget a lot with my like shorts, and I'm really glad we don't do video while we do this because I'm also just wearing a hoodie and shorts and under the blankies and
Yeah, we're in our pajamas on our bed right
jammies.
now.
Yeah,
That's the benefit with these microphones.
because we could just sit wherever we want now.
Let's see. What else? Current federal law requires federal agencies to test for marijuana under Executive Order 1256-4 in their workplace drug testing programs, which SAMHA said, referencing to the 1986 executive order issued by guess what fucking president?
Nixon?
No, 86.
Oh, Reagan?
Yeah.
Eh.
Fucking goddamn it, Reagan. Someone went on a rant on TikTok and I watched it in multiple parts, and he broke down basically all of the issues in today's society can be traced back to fucking Ronald Reagan. The economy, Reaganomics, that's a fucking issue. All the celebrities becoming presidents, fucking Ronald Reagan. Fucking tax cuts for the wealthy, and that fucking however almost 40-year long stretch now, fucking Reagan. The war on drugs, fucking Reagan.
Fuck you, Reagan.
Let's see.
He dead.
Reagan?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd been dead.
Good on him.
The executive order states or generally prohibits government workers from using Schedule 1 or 2 drugs. However, the U.S. Health and Human Service, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which is the umbrella agency that SAMHSA falls under, recently announced that recently recommended the DEA move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 on the Controlled Substances Act, which still is stupid.
Yeah. Just deschedule it entirely.
Yes, like put it at the same fucking level as alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know what's very confusing to me?
What?
I'm going to use this as my last little excerpt before the end of the episode. The amount of damage alcohol does, we don't put any regulations on it other than the ATF, which is fine. But it's way less damaging, or way more damaging. Alcohol is way more damaging than cannabis, yet we treat cannabis like it's a fucking plague.
Yeah.
It is so fucking stupid. Anything else you want to add?
No, it's just that I am also frustrated. It's frustrating and stupid, and the whole goddamn thing doesn't make any fucking sense.
Nope. Well, once again, my name is Raven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And do you have any skills this week?
I don't know.
I don't either. You know what? I do have a skittle right before we end this episode. The PA Ren Fair. Thank you guys
Yeah.
for everything you do. You are an amazing event, and we love coming to you guys.
Keep being awesome.
But yeah, I think that's it for our episode.
Yeah.
We'll catch y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.